is not here yet when he arrives for this, but instead, we're going to start another panel with someone else who is boys adjacent. So please put your hands together. He is an actor whose work is renowned, started the 7th season of The Rookie. You may have seen him talk yesterday about his role as Bobby Drake the Iceman in the X-Men films. And of course, if you are familiar with the boys, you know he did show up as the Lamplighter. Please welcome Shawn Ashmore!
I know I'm not who you were expecting to be here, but glad you guys are all here.
Well, your character talks, so.
My character does speak. He said a lot of foul things.
We love it. No, they do. All right, let's tell you what. Let's treat this as kind of an impromptu solo panel. In which case, I want to talk a little bit about you, like
sure.
More about the background stuff like that, and then because try to kill a little time, and then if managers show up, then we'll talk about the boys.
Great.
All right. So I always ask this, everybody. What made you want to be an actor?
It felt sort of predetermined. I have a twin brother who's also an actor, which is very strange that we're both in our 40s and continuing to work and be successful, both of us as actors. But basically, we grew up in Canada, and my mom was walking us through a park when we were about 8 or 9, and a cast director asked my mom if we wanted to audition for a commercial. And my mom was like, I don't know, boys, you want to audition for a commercial? We were like, well, what's it for? They were like, it's for a toy. And we were like, yeah, that sounds cool. My brother Aaron booked, oh shoot, that was loud. My brother Aaron booked the role, but he had the flu on the day. So my mom brought him in and said, you hired him, but he is literally sick as a dog. So I brought the other one, which was me. And I got to do it. So I have to thank my brother Aaron for starting our acting career. But that's kind of how we started. We just, and then pursued, community theater stuff and commercials and Canadian TV movies. And then I guess my kind of first big break was a show called Animorphs, which was a Nickelodeon show. That was like a big deal. Hey, all right, yeah. Which was a big deal because it was like an American show. We shot in Toronto, but it was like, now I'm being kind of put in front of a bigger American audience. And after that, I did a Disney Channel show. Then I did the first X-Men.
Those animal books, they had a huge following.
Well,
so I was working at a bookstore, and that and Goosebumps were kind of like the two young things. So get hooked, and I believe in the books, it was just like every book was a different kid who turned into a different thing. And then it kind of hit the wall where they're like all the cool animals were gone. So the covers would be a kid turning into an oyster.
Yeah.
Just really.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you have against oysters, man? What's the problem? What's your problem? Yeah.
It's like, I'll turn into a clam.
Yeah.
And I'll put a sand in my mouth and check on me 8 years later.
Yes. yeah, it's true.
That's my power.
They had to get a little crazy, but it was also like to this day, like almost every week, someone comes up to me talking about Animorphs. That was over 25 years ago, and I think that at the time there wasn't a lot of live action, sci-fi, fantasy genre stuff that was targeted towards teenagers. There was like Power Rangers that was definitely more action adventure, but there wasn't sort of like a specific sci-fi fantasy show, live action anyway, that was targeted towards teens. So I think that's kind of why it held up, and that book series was so popular because the show only lasted 2 seasons. Yeah.
Enough.
It was enough. Yeah, we saw enough. Those effects were not great.
Now, going back to the early stuff, in the old days, it was always, they would take identical twins, cast them as the one kid, so that they could split the time constraints between the two of you. Were you and your brother ever in that situation?
We never did that. The rules were slightly different in Canada. Okay. The unions weren't quite as strong. So when we worked together, it was as twins. So we would do like a Fruit Loops commercial and be like the twin brothers fighting in it. Okay. So we did more of that. And then at a pretty early age, we decided that we didn't want to be seen as a unit like twins, which I think, again, is why we're working today. We didn't work together as a unit. We were like, even at like probably 12, we were like, let's do stuff separately. And I think that helped us.
I think strategically that was a good decision.
It wasn't an active thing, it just, we were being compared in every other aspect of our lives. And the way that I talk about being an identical twin is like your best friend becomes your biggest competition. Because at a certain age, it's like, well, who's better at school? Who's better at hockey? Who do girls like more? Like whatever the thing is.
Well, the important thing is that you guys are known as you. It's not the Ashmore twins.
Yes.
Like, I've never really heard that phrase.
No, and yet we tend to...
Olsen twins, yes.
Exactly. And we tend to do cons together, or we try to, and that's actually really fun because they sit us next to each other, and when someone's like, oh my god, I love you, it's Jimmy Olsen, I'm like, oh, actually, that's him. And then they just walk next door and hang out there. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's not too bad. You had a great run on The Rookie, which was a show that kind of came out, looked like one of those, almost like an old school show, for lack of a better term. But it found a very stable audience, and 7 seasons.
Yeah, we finished our 7th season, and we're waiting to find out about an 8th. But yeah, The Rookie, I think, is like a traditional network show, and I think that was kind of on the decline with, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all the streaming stuff, which I love, that kind of could take a darker turn, or they had bigger budgets to do stuff. But I do think that there's something very comforting about the familiarity of a network show. You know what I mean? Like, you know exactly what you're gonna get.
There was a gold rush for the past, ever since Sopranos started it, but it was really more like Deadwood and Sons of Anarchy, which have this year.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a gold rush of, let's do mature.
Yeah.
And without realizing, no, it should be an expansion, not a replacement.
Yeah.
And I think The Rookie is a good, you know what, let's do a nice, comfy procedural.
Yeah.
And the material's still there, and people wonder why there's so many lawyer shows and police shows and doctor shows.
Yeah.
It's because the hooks are infinite.
Yeah, and they work, and I also think The Rookie works because although Nathan Fillion is definitely the star of our show, there's a huge ensemble built around him, and even this season I said to our writers, I was like, it feels like the show is still fresh, the characters are still fresh. And they're like, well, our trick is we have a big enough cast that whenever we feel like things are starting to get a little stagnant, we just write 2 characters together that haven't been together and see what chemistry works. And sometimes it takes off and it's like, oh, that's a new direction we take the show. Sometimes it doesn't, and they just kind of like, okay, that was a cool couple episodes. So that's kind of like a nice way to mix things up.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go on into it. How did The Boys come about for you?
So The Boys I was a huge fan of the first season. I read comic books, I was very into genre stuff, but I had not read The Boys. I hadn't even heard of it, to be honest, when I saw the show, and I quickly checked it out, and I didn't read them yet, but I kind of did some research, and I was like, oh, this show's gonna be a lot of fun. And I loved the first season, and I got a call right before the second season started shooting to go in for an audition. And it was the same cast director, actually, that worked on The Rookie. So I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go read for this. And it was for a character called Eagle the Archer that was with the Deep in season 2. They kind of went off that mission, and I can't even remember all of it. But I got really close. It was between me and another actor, and I got a call being like, hey, it's between the 2 of you guys. One of you is gonna get it. We think it's gonna go your way. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna be in The Boys. And then 6 hours later, I got the call, they went the other way. And I was like, oh no. So I was super bummed. And then about a month after that, I was shooting a film in LA, and I got a call being like, hey, they want you to audition again for The Rookie, or for The Boys. And I was like, you just kind of said no to me, and you guys really liked my tape, so it's like, if you want me, I feel like I showed you what I could do. Yeah. And my agents were like, no, you really have to make a tape. All you have to do is make a tape. They're very interested, just make the tape. And then I saw what role it was, and it was Lamplighter, and I was like, oh, they've been talking about Lamplighter this whole season. He's like this really bad guy that Frenchie hates and MM hates, and I was like, oh, this could be really, really cool. There's all this built up history and a lot of stories already told, even though the characters never showed up. So I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. And I love the scenes, I love the side. So right after I finished shooting, I rushed to this self-tape place, made a tape, sent it in, and the next day I got the part. And then I realized, I was like, oh, what I loved about The Boys is they subvert kind of the superhero genre. And they're like, oh, they want Iceman to play Pyro. Okay. And I kind of said that, I kind of checked in with Eric Kripke after I got the part, who's the creator of the show. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, good, we're all on the same page. You want Iceman to Pyro, let's do this. And then I just went for it. And I had so much fun on the show. Everybody was so welcoming. And I was scared to screw it up. Because I was like, it was a high level show. I loved the show. Hey, speaking of the show.
Hey! He is an actor whose roles include Arrow, Supernatural, and Tomorrow People, Ginny and Georgia, iZombie, and The Boys. He's here to join us to discuss his basic career. Please welcome Nathan Mitchell!
They're like, what the new
Yeah. Oh, good. 2 was more the merrier. right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, man. How you guys doing? Great. Sorry, I'm a little late. I mixed up my itinerary. And, I was like, it's no good excuse. But hey.
It's all good. This is now an X-Men panel, so thanks.
Sick.
Yeah.
Love X-Men.
I was just saying that when I got hired to play Lamplighter, I kind of checked in with Eric and I was like, "You want Iceman to play Pyro, basically, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, good. I know what we're doing then."
Yeah. What I love about The Boys is that it's so meta like that. It's like we have the last 20, 25 years of superhero culture in the movies, and we have all of that to work off of. And, when Amazon is willing to, just do whatever, we can do that and make meta plays on things. And that's just a super classic thing we were able to do, bring you on.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I was a huge fan of the first season, but I was again, although I've been in superhero stuff, I was almost hitting that like Marvel DC fatigue, where it was like they're all great, but it's kind of the same thing. And then to watch the first season of The Boys and have you guys subvert the norm, I was like, oh, this is really fun. So yeah, I was totally game to come and play with that.
And first of all, thanks for joining us. All totally cool. Yeah,
of course.
We'll go outside that. How did first of all, thank you for a great body of work. And for whatever it's worth, I was a fan of Tomorrow People.
Oh, that was
I watched the original in the 80s, the British version. Now when this reboot came out, because that and a couple of other things, well, just reboot of Doctor Who seems working good. Let's one of these. Oh, there's that Tomorrow People one, which was basically the X-Men. For all intents and purposes.
Wow, yeah, you're right.
So, great turn on that. I have a soft spot for that one.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. How did The Boys come about for you? Because it is interesting. If anyone's read the comics, and I won't go into possible spoilers, your character is an interesting turn, which just looks like they pivoted from maybe. It still could boomerang, but anything is possible.
Some revenge for Homelander.
Yeah.
So The Boys came to me. I have a friend in Vancouver who was auditioning for it, and he was like, "You should ask your manager. You'd love this show." So I did, and I got an audition for The Deep, and I thought to myself, "Oh, it'd be so cool if I got to do the show, right?" I didn't hear anything. Nothing happened, and then I was on vacation with my family in the Dominican Republic, and this audition came in. And so I was like, oh, I feel like I've done one of these scenes before. And they're like, yeah, we need it in 2 days. And I'm like, it's Christmas break. I just got on vacation. Let me chill out a little. No one's making a decision on December 24th. So I just kind of sat with the material, took it in. When I got back, I taped it for a few days, or I taped it, and then I heard back about a week later. That was Black Noir. It was an A-Train audition, an A-Train scene and a Deep scene. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because there was no Black Noir scene, so they're like, do something with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you got it, how much information did they give you up front, or was it just as you got the scripts and that's what you learned?
It was kind of that, It was like, I don't know if it was my agent or one of the first ADs when I got into set. They were like, all right, so you'll never speak and they'll never see your face. And I was like, I'm not doing anything else right now, so might as well. And yeah, I think Black Noir was really a discovery as we went on,
I think, from my own theory and what I sort of pieced together, it just seems like, okay, we could go in the direction of the comics or we could explore our own path. And I think they made the decision to sort of explore their own path a little more in conjunction with giving you more opportunity.
Yeah, I think Eric's mindset was, if Black Noir is the big bad the whole time, it kind of takes away from Homelander's evilness, And so if Homelander isn't really the guy pulling the strings, doing everything, then why are we that scared of him?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's the main thought pattern. And also I think...
And Woody have done the little thing with doing the whole killing thing with the one kid. Oh, this is your plushie?
Yeah. I don't think Homelander would do that, right? But yeah, I think what's been lovely about this is Noir has really been a conversation with Eric. You know, as the seasons went on, we discovered who he was more. And initially, I think the original inclination was to take him into some sort of like a gothic route. And for me, it's like you get the intensity, you get the scariness, you get the intimidation factor. And I was like, how can we flip this? How can we bring something you're not expecting to this character? And what's the least likely thing you'd expect from someone who looks like that? It would be someone with a soft heart who like is kind of awkward and goofy and funny, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad they went in that direction. I'm glad for you, everything else. Okay. When we did our first virtual panel and everything else, you were supposed to be on it, and I think Amazon pulled you off.
No way.
Because they weren't sure where they were going.
Oh yeah.
And I think they were still locked in at that point of maybe going the direction of the comics, and so they wanted to keep that bottled up.
You know what? That tracks.
Yeah.
So what year was that? I'm trying to remember.
COVID.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I'm happy we went the direction we did.
I think we all are. I'm okay with that. And if you read the comics and you disagree, just be quiet. For each of you, what was the most fun day you had on the boys set?
I know mine.
I think I know yours too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had two favorite scenes. There was a scene with Huey where Lamplighter's watching soup porn, which was really, really fun. Just getting to say the titles was really, really fun. But also, I like the day that my character kills himself. Like, that was a huge stunt. That was like a really, spoiler alert, by the way. If you
I feel like I was there that day.
Yeah, you were that
Yeah.
day. Yeah. Well, they were doing press that day. I think that's why you're there. I don't know if you worked that day, but I remember there was like a bunch of publicity there. So I feel like there was a bunch of people there. But that was like a big stunt. You know what I mean? And that's when I really realized. I knew coming up, even the first couple weeks I worked, I was like, this is a big budget show. You guys take your time, you have the effects, the teams, the equipment you need. And I also felt like, oh yeah, we shoot this scene until our directors are happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a luxury sometimes you don't have on other kinds of projects. So that was really impressive to me. But then when I got in there and we were starting to shoot the sequence where I light myself on fire, I was like, oh yeah, this is like a big stunt. It's a dangerous stunt. Fire always makes me super nervous, and I never want to be close to it. But I was like, I'm gonna be on the set and watch this go. I'm always scared for the stunt.
On X-Men, we used fake snow.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm Canadian. I'm good with snow. It's fire that I'm afraid of. Anyway, so yeah, that was I think that was such an impressive and fun scene for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it's hard to think of one day because they all blend together, you know. And you know, I think the first thing I'll say is like, just being with my castmates is fun. You know, I think I enjoy the process of working with them every day. And man, you go through all the different days, doing all the scenes. You know, one day in particular that I really liked, the day with Lucy the Whale. You know, we were all out there, and you know, you see this gigantic whale with like insides that are like carved out. This is a fake whale, by the way, but like the boys have to be in the whale, and they're covered in blood, and it's dripping everywhere, and it's sticky, and so like bees and wasps are like coming up to them. And the suits, like, we can't get our suits dirty, so we're chilling. But like, what was nice is that we all, in the story, we're all usually on our individual journeys. And that was one day where we all got to be together, you know, outside, and just having fun, laughing. It's summer, you know. So the thing I enjoy most is just being with my castmates.
Laz was still complaining about being sticky and dirty when I showed up. Like 2 episodes later, he was like, "That was the worst." Yeah, I remember. He like literally he went on for like an hour when I first met him, talking about like being sticky and stuck in mud or in blood. I was like, all right.
He would.
And what you said about not getting on the costume and everything else, my favorite story about Anthony Starr is that they told him up front, that cape is more valuable than you. If we have to replace that cape, we will replace you.
Yeah, those super suits cost a pretty penny, I will say.
Yeah. They are some of the best. Like, The design.
Someone with experience.
Well, that's kind of where the story was going. I think I spent more time doing fittings for the Lamplighter costume than I did for any of the X-Men costumes. I think it was just, it was definitely a more fitted and intricate costume. You know, the X stuff was like basically like, they custom built those out of leather. I think it was a Japanese leather maker and costume maker that made those by hand. But it was sort of like, the silhouette was pretty simple. You know what I mean? It was just like almost like a motorcycle riding suit with like embellishments and stuff. So not taking away from that at all. But yeah, I came up I flew up to Toronto 2 or 3 times just to do the costume fittings. And then, so I was, as you were talking about this, I was thinking the other day that I loved was, I only got to wear the costume twice. But there was one scene where Lamplighter's walking down like a red carpet with like a beautiful model, and it's like this whole like movie premiere, and that was really fun because that was the first time I wore the costume out, and I had the big lamp, and they had like the staff lamp, and they had like a propane tank running down it. It was like flaming, and I was like, am I gonna light on fire carrying this thing down the red carpet?
Turn the wrong direction.
Yeah, but I felt really cool. You know, like it was like a very fun, you know, to wear that for the first time and walk out with that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, it's like, again, the Boys is building off of 25 years of superhero movies and TV shows, and so like X-Men, among other movies and shows, laid the foundation, right? And it's like when you're the first, or among the first, it's the hardest because you're setting the tone, you're going into new territory, and obviously there's like stuff if you go way back, but yeah, it's like it's easier for us because we have all this material to reference.
It is. When I first heard they were doing adaptation, I was just like, "Oh, come on, really? That's kind of pushing it." But because I was just like knowing how, and not just in the storyline, just like knowing how complex it was, and just the enormity of that cast of characters and the costumes, the effects needed, and everything else. But it looks like somebody at Amazon believed in it and gave it that push. But yeah, it's like, in terms of the difference, I always tell everybody, what's the difference between the comics and the series? I said, the live action series is more playful. Mm-hmm. Even though it's grand gang gold and blood, and it has its harsh moments and stuff like that, there are more moments of levity than what Garth Ennis did in his series, which was he really just wanted to attack the concept of the superhero. I think The Boys, the series, plays with it for people outside of it, and I think they both work. And I think they work really good in their mediums.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, no, the Boys comic is really good. Is the best version is in a comic form, and this series is the best version that can be in live action.
Yeah, I agree.
So when did what's from your perspective? But again, that first season was like okay, you know, we'll see. We guess when did you realize that it may have actually exceeded expectations?
I knew we were on that path from the beginning. You know, I spent 5 years before in Vancouver, and I think in 2014 I did Arrow, but I've been around, you know, Arrow, Flash, all the CW-verse shows, and, you know, I'm friends with David Ramsey, and so I was just in and around that world a little bit, and I saw how people around the world reacted to superhero content, superhero TV shows. You know, you talk about the conventions people are doing everywhere, you know, and I saw the love for it. And I saw, once when I read the script, you know, the script stood out to me because it was like, this script has something to say, it has an opinion, it has a new take on the superhero world. And then when I saw the production value and the cast, you know, I was like, we just need to put these things together. People are gonna like it, you know. And then when the episodes came out, it was like, oh wow, yeah, you know. And I think once I saw the final version of the pilot, that solidified it. Eric got us all together, and we watched, I think, the first 2 episodes on like a big screen, like in the theater, and we're all just like, holy fuck, you know. And if you ever do get a chance to watch The Boys on a big screen, I actually think that Amazon, you know, it would be nice if they did an event, you know, where they released, you know, the first few episodes of season 5 on like at a movie theater, I think that's the way this show is made to be taken in.
I think you should make a movie.
I would love that. I would love that. Fingers crossed.
Well, it's created a whole flexible universe, and he's always said, yeah, I've got more stories in my back pocket whenever I get around to it and stuff. So the source material's there.
I want to pipe in because obviously I wasn't on the show the first season, but as an audience member, I knew that the show was going to be awesome when A-Train ran through his girlfriend. The second that happened, he's holding her hands. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm in. Like literally, I was because I didn't know anything about the comic. Was not aware. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the superhero show. Like it looks cool. The trailer looks cool. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally in. Like,
this is different.
Well, it's just exactly what we were missing from other kinds of superhero stuff. It was just so different and so bold and so fucked up. I was like, ugh, like. And again, he's like holding her hands, like there's blood squirting. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally into this.
And another testament too is just like the balance of the cast, because you've got the boys and then your team, and then the characters that show up in between, like yourselves, and everybody has a moment.
Yeah.
Everybody has moments, and it would be very, very easy to bring in a character, have them one note, and then boom, they get splattered or whatever. But it's a really good hybrid. It's really good, really good hybrid.
Yeah, and that's a testament to Eric and the writers and the cast is able to bring such dimension. But yeah, I think that one of the things I love the most about the show is, the Supes are obviously the bad guys, but the show does such a good job of bringing the humanity to every person. And we see, despite all the terrible decisions they make, we see the vulnerabilities and the flaws and the humanity and in some ways, innocence might be a big word given what the Supes do, but we see those components of everyone. And I think one thing TV shows and stories and plays let us do is they let us experience empathy for people in different positions.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to pipe in because this actually is a moment, this actually ties in directly to what you're saying. Again, as an audience member, watching the show before I was a part of it, and I still think this carries on today. I think the reason that, for me, Homelander hasn't jumped the shark, is in the first season, there's a moment where he freaks out about, he's doing this this fake reality tour of his home, and he sees a blanket, and he freaks out, and then does the flashback to where he's this test subject as a baby. Literally broke my heart. And then from that moment forward, I was like, as much as this guy's like the biggest piece of shit and so evil and so twisted, it all cycles back to that moment as a child or as an infant where he was being tested on. And I was like, so I can forgive everything Homelander does in a way because of that psychological, damage and pathology that he has. And so that literally was heartbreaking. Like I thought it was so powerful and so amazing.
I've always said, the cast of the boys, there's that moment Homelander is in the hallway breaking down because he had that moment in the speech or whatever. It's like, there are moments I have empathy. It's like I said there, I have empathy for him. I don't have sympathy because he's a bastard.
Yes.
But it's really, and there's a propensity now, especially in comic properties, that the villains must have the very tragic sort of backstory, and they push it too far. And it's not right. Kingpin and Daredevil, I have empathy for him, but I can't forgive him for the stuff he's done. But finding that balance is it's a wonderful thing about just entertainment. It's about those words in the script. And it's about that performer and delivering him. So, one more thing before I jump on in real quick. How long did it take you for you to define Black Noir? Just say like you had the physicality, and that was kind of it for a while. It's just
I think for me, I focused on how do I feel in a suit. Like what is my like when I'm in this suit? How do I respond to it? How do I react? And where I went is like I've loved superheroes my entire life, and it made me feel joyful. It made me feel buoyant and happy, and it took me back to when I was a kid. And I also did Taekwondo growing up, so I studied Taekwondo from my age of like 6 to 17, and I felt like there were these two modes I had when I was doing Taekwondo. If I was sparring or fighting, I would be like Raphael. And then like the intensity, the just the drive. And then when I wasn't, I'd be goofing around with my friends because I was like an 8-year-old, right? Yeah, Michelangelo. And so initially, the kind of one of the dualities of Black Noir was he was this Raphael Michelangelo figure who had such a command of his skill set that he could turn it on in a moment. But when you have that command as a martial artist, you don't need to walk around ready to fight all the time. You're chill, right? And so then the other part was, yeah, he is also this goofy kid inside. And that's how I built the character. But it was a pretty, I don't want to say immediate thing, but it came fairly early on in season 1 where I was like, oh, he's a big kid. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for indulging my capricious curiosity, and thank you for jumping into it. I'll take some questions. I'll tell you what, I'll just take some hands. We'll come around. Like I said, I wonderfully appreciate it if our questions were directed to both of our guests and related to them. If you had an individual question about their individual body work, they'll be at their tables. So we have this great opportunity, so let's make the most of it. All right. Who wants to go first? Oh, wow. All right, I'll tell you what, we got that many, let's do a line. Let's go ahead and do a line. That way we can crank them out. All right. Who wants to go first? Yeah, you go first, you get 2 pieces of candy, so congratulations. Okay, all right, what's your name?
My name is Diana, and I was wondering, what's like the funniest moment that happened like on set?
Oh man, I gotta think of this. Wow, it's like, it's 4 years, right? I mean, one moment I can think of is, I think, that one. Basically, a fun moment I can think back to is when Claudia rapped, and I went over to set because she was finished, and everyone was having a dance party. Jack and Claudia and everyone was just like, it was like techno house, and it was a good vibe. And there was another time where I think I took a nap and people were taking pictures of me. And then it became a whole thing, So those are 2 times that were really funny.
I have a much different story. So the funniest thing that happened, and I couldn't stop laughing, was there's a scene with a character called Love Sausage, and Laz had to get his appendage wrapped around his neck, and he was not that happy about it. And everybody was teasing him and whatever, and finally he just, I think the director was like, I want you to bite it. And he's like, I'm not doing that. And he did. And I think it made the cut. And I was like, and everybody was dying, because he just did not want to do that. And he was like, why do I always have to have this shit? And again, this was also the guy that was like, the first time I really met him was telling me like for an hour how much he hated having all the blood on him. And he was like, you see? Now I have love sausage around my neck and I gotta bite this thing.
That's very loud.
Yeah, so anyway, but I couldn't stop laughing. And again, that was one of my first days on set. So I was like, this show's gonna be awesome.
Great way to start us off with, thank you. Hey, what's your name?
Justin.
What you got?
So I actually didn't know that you were Black Noir from season 1, so that's cool. How did you feel after they used a different actor in order to kill him off in season 3 about finally being able to show your face in season 4?
I was so excited and also a little conflicted. Basically, at the beginning of season 3, Eric and I had a meeting, and he said, "Hey, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. And the bad news is Black Noir is going to die. But the good news is you can stick around. So it's up to you. Do you want to be the Black Noir in season 3, whose face we're going to show for a scene? But in that case, Noir dies, and you can come back and continue playing the character under the suit, but when we reveal the face, it'll have to be someone else. Or you can let someone else be Black Noir in season 3, and in the universe, you can play the new Black Noir in season 4. And so it was tough, because when you commit to a character, when you give your heart to them, you want to go on the whole journey. And there's a part of me that wanted to do that scene, even though I knew season 4 and 5 would be off the table. But I thought about it, and I'm like, it's more fun and smarter to do the next Black Noir. So I handed that great, responsibility off to Fritzy. The guy who played young Black Noir did an amazing job. And I took this one, and honestly, it's still, I really care about that character, and it makes me sad sometimes thinking about him. But I also love what I get to do now. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, what's your name?
Ben,
What you got?
who would win in the fight between Black Noir and Lamplighter?
Black Noir.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? Like, Lamplighter, fire, right? But we remember the explosion in season 2. Noir's face is charred. Like, Noir can get burned. Everything can happen to him. He's just gonna keep coming.
Iceman would fuck Black Noir up though.
That might be true, yeah. You can't fight with a frozen hand.
Yeah, we can agree with that.
Yes.
We can agree with that.
Thanks, man.
Love candy.
Hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Ren. My question is, if you could take or steal anything from the set, like a prop or something, what would you take?
My
Hold
whole
on. Oh yeah, I was about to say. Oh, like, if you could find yourself in possession of anything from any set you guys have worked upon, what item would you select?
From the boys specifically, I actually have the titty committee lighter. For some reason,
Nice.
that's what they put on Lamplighter's Zippo, because obviously he's very into pornography. So I brought it home, and then my wife found it, and she's like, "Why do you have a titty?" She had no idea. She's like, "What the hell is it? Why do you have a titty committee?" And I was like, "No, it's from the show. It's from the show."
I swear.
So that was kind of the coolest thing that I could have brought home, and I have. They actually made a few of them, one or two. I had while I was rehearsing and sort of preparing for the role, I had thought about like some Zippo tricks that I could do for Lamplighter. I came up with a couple things, and Sarah, the director, and I were talking about stuff, and then we presented it to Eric, and Eric was like, "No," because when we find Lamplighter, he's not excited to be doing this. He's basically like having to kill these people, and it's against his will. So he's like, he wouldn't be flashy, he wouldn't be into it. So he's like, when you kill people in the facility, you just light your lighter and fry them. So anyway, I had all these tricks and all these things I could do, and he's like, "No, that's not right at all." I was like, "No, you're absolutely right." So anyway, I got to keep the lighter, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Steven. I was wondering what scene that you were in grossed you out the most.
I mean, obviously, when his guts get ripped out, that's pretty gross. But honestly, the grossest thing for me, I remember I was on set, not filming, but I walked into the special effects trailer, and remember in season 2, there's a guy named Gecko, who he can just break his limbs off, right? And so he was sitting with his hand out, and then attached to his arm was another arm that was fake, that was just broken and spewing blood, and I was like, whoa, I know this is fake, but it's so real. So that, for me, was it.
Right on, thank you. Hey, what's your name?
My name is DeAndre, and I wanted to ask, what was the most awkward moment in the show for y'all?
Awkward. Oh, man.
I actually didn't have any awkward moments because I think coming on to a show like that, you sort of know that everything's gonna be awkward. Again, like giant prosthetic penis wrapping around people's, like you're killing people. It's like you're watching porn. It's like, it's all kind of up for grabs. So it wasn't awkward for me. I just was like, this is crazy, but it was more fun than awkward.
Yeah, same. It's like, I honestly, maybe I could think of it, but it's these questions are tough because, we've been filming this show since 2018, right? And there's so many days and so many moments, and we're all pretty comfortable with each other, and I honestly cannot think of an awkward one, but if you have give me another category and I'll give you something.
What about in your career as a whole?
Oh, man, okay, let's see, awkward moment in my career. There's something, you take that and I'll come
Yeah,
back.
I got it. I have 2 bad audition stories that are the most awkward things that have ever happened to me. I'm just deciding which one to tell. Okay, I'll tell this one. There was an HBO pilot that was casting that J.J. Abrams was producing. And I'd auditioned for him several times for the newer Star Trek films, and they brought me back a couple times, and I felt like, okay, I obviously didn't get the roles, but I had some goodwill. Anyway, this part was about a guy that a metal girder falls on his hand in the opening scene, and he ends up in the hospital, and he ends up realizing that he has cancer. It's like a really sad story, but he's in extreme, excruciating pain. That's the scene. He gets wheeled in, and his arm is shattered. And I've been thinking about the scene, and I was really excited. HBO pilot, blah blah blah. I literally hyperventilated during the scene, and I don't know if you've ever done that. I'd never done that before, but literally, like, I had paralysis on my face for a minute. Like, all your muscles tense up, you have no oxygen, and I like froze in the middle of the scene. And they're like, "Okay, Shawn, thanks. That was great." And I couldn't even. And I knew, like, I couldn't move basically for a second, and I was trying to pick up the water bottle that I had, and I couldn't like make a fist to pick it up. And they had to like open the door and let me out. They're like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little lightheaded." I went into the bathroom immediately, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, that might have been the best audition I've ever done, you know? Because I was like, it was so real. Not 2 minutes later, like I'm like breathing again, and I'm like, okay, I got feeling back in my face. My agents call, and they're like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "They just called to make sure that you're okay, but you had like a full-on meltdown in that audition." And I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, like I hyperventilated, and I thought maybe it was great." They're like, "It was not great."
Whoa.
So that was pretty awkward.
Yeah, I had one audition where like, I don't know if I like left my glasses or my contacts weren't in one day or whatever, but I was doing the audition and I was like, I couldn't see my reader clearly, so I just was just like looking at his neck or something, and it was just like very weird. And the casting director just like called my agent, he's like, "That was really bad." And I was like, fuck. And then there's another one where I had an audition for the 100. And I had to run in the audition, but I had just sprained my ankle, and but I was like, I was new to Vancouver. I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm limping into the audition. I'm like on one foot doing the scene. I'm limping out. It was a big mistake.
There you go. Thank you. Took us in fun directions. Hello. What's your name?
Sandra. You spoke about how the innocence of the show, and the only one that I could really think about that seemed very innocent was the young girl who kept having to like pierce her hand when she had to do, like her mother put her in all these contests and stuff like that, and then she gets into the boys with you guys, and she like winds up in the bathroom like throwing up, and yeah, she was the only one I could think of. Like, what do you mean by innocence so much?
Yeah, innocence again might not be the right word. What I mean by innocence is we all have an inner child in us. You know, we all have this like vulnerable part of ourselves. Maybe not everyone, but theoretically, right? And theoretically, we all have a soft spot. And I think one way of looking at humanity is like, no matter how hard someone gets, how heinous, maybe there's still a part of them where that inner child still exists, where there's a part of them that is still capable of good, a part of them that is vulnerable, able to be hurt, needs protection from the world, has a softness. And maybe, you know, in those cases when we're able to see that, we're able to understand them better, but also bring them back to the whatever goodness they may still have, you know. And that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying innocent in terms of like the deeds they have done. I was saying innocent in terms of maybe there's still a little part of them that has vulnerability or goodness in them.
And a lot of these characters were thrust into this fate.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with it. And a lot of them, they don't mean to act the way they are, but these powers, the crazy, like with A-Train in the beginning. "Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I gotta go." It's just like they've been thrown into this superhuman plateau, and they're weird in a way. They're trying to deal with it as best they can.
And one way I look at it is like, you think of Greek gods at the top. You get to the top of Mount Olympus, and you're above everybody else, but you're also trying to stay on top of the mountain. You know, it's like you have the boulder or whatever, and it's in trying to stay on the top and not slip to the bottom that you're in this unwinnable position where you have to compromise on your morals and your values, your integrity, all of that.
Now go talk to Giancarlo. His character's not innocent in the show.
Yeah.
He's the corporate guy. So, but Tricks and Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, what's your name?
Paul, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Very basic question, but you guys both mentioned you were into comics and all that. Any comic book or sci-fi character you think would be the coolest fight with your boy's character?
Coolest fight?
Yeah.
Well, I got one. I don't think it's even competitive, but I loved Ghost Rider. So I was like fire against fire. I mean, Ghost Rider would destroy Lamplighter, but I still think it'd be a good battle.
My mind goes to it goes to Spider-Man and Deadpool, to be honest. Like, Deadpool would be funny. And especially Deadpool versus the first Black Noir, Deadpool versus the second Black Noir, and then it's Spider-Man just jumping around, web slinging, and Noir's just with the knives, and Noir's more of an immovable force, and if he catches you, it's boom. That's what I would say.
Fun one, thank you. All right, we got a few minutes left, so we'll take care of these three. I'll have to close the line at this point. So, hey, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Erica. I just had a question. Was there scenes that maybe were difficult to kind of go through? I know we kind of talked about scenes that might have been gross or something, but was there something that was kind of hard to kind of do I have to do this, or just something that's emotionally hard to go through?
For me, I think the hardest scene was the scene where Mallory confronts Lamplighter in the back of the ambulance after the boys have kind of decided Lamplighter can be an ally, and Mallory basically wants to kill him, and Lamplighter's agreeing, he's already suicidal. It's kind of a cue, and he's do it, and that was a very emotional scene. And also I was that sort of, when you're on a show for a couple episodes and you know that's there's a huge arc, okay, we gotta meet this character, you have to understand him, and then you also have to buy and care that he's gonna kill himself in 2 episodes. How do you make that work? And so I knew that specifically that scene emotionally had to land and had to be important, and you had to care about him and also hate him at the same time. So from just an acting perspective and crafting a character, that scene was challenging. But I loved it. I was really happy with how it went, but that was the tough one for me.
Yeah. For me, when Noir died in season 3, what was interesting about that is it felt like someone was dying that day. The energy was different in the room, and you could just feel it. And so that was difficult for me. And after a while, we just got into the motions of it, and it was good. And it was seeing Anthony up close, breathing in your face, looking at you intensely, and about to rip your guts out is a unique experience. But that was one of my hardest days.
Well, thank you. Hey, what's your name? What you got?
Hi, my name is Mia, and I just wanted to ask, what was, in your opinion, the saddest scene in the whole show to you?
Wow. Oh man. It's honestly it's tough because usually I watch the season at the very beginning of when it comes out. We get it beforehand, we watch it, and you're so close to it, so you try to watch it and then just kind of leave it behind and focus on the next season. The saddest scene, I can't think of what out the top of my head. Well, I think Noir stuff is pretty sad, and the whole, being bullied and finally being ready to confront Soldier Boy, only to be betrayed by his best friend. I think that is this double betrayal. Noir kept his secret from Homelander the entire time. Noir was Homelander's only friend. And then, Homelander kills his only friend, who's been good to him in every other way.
Mine still is that scene that I talked about earlier, where we see kind of Homelander's backstory, and you see him as a child, no affection, no love, no contact. That was heartbreaking, I thought.
For me, it's the airplane scene.
Oh yeah, good one.
Yeah.
He's okay, everybody, we got this taken care of. Let's go. It's no, let's go. Can't we just say, let's go? And then he breaks down. Oh, laser your face. It's it's hard to watch.
That's the moment when we're in a different
Yes.
show.
That
moment
defines
is
the show.
Pew.
Yeah, that and A-Train's accident. Absolutely. So, all right, bring us home. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Raphael Cosme. I had a question for you, Black Noir. How much of the fight scenes when you did the choreography was you and then versus a stuntman stuff?
I'm involved in it a bit, so I'll be there on the day, I'll do what I can, but we have a great stunt team, so they do a lot as well, and especially for the more intricate stuff. One of the rules we have is that it'll always be stunt, and the person opposite will be an actor. So if I'm doing a stunt, I'll be working with my scene partner's stunt person. If my scene partner is doing a stunt, they'll be working with my stunt person. And they do that to kind of keep us as safe as we can, and it's a lot of choreography to learn, especially in the suit. So I do what they let me and I do what they allow, but it's all, my stunt guy's always there. He does a great part of it. And then I kind of slip in where I can. Yeah.
What's coming up on everybody's dockets you're allowed to share with us?
I got a top secret. I'm just joking. I'm doing Ginny and Georgia season 4. I don't know if we have an official announceable date of filming yet, but season 3 is coming out June 5th, and I'm excited to get back into that.
Just finished the 7th season of The Rookie. We're waiting to hear about an 8th season, and I also have a film called It Feeds, which is a horror film coming out April 18th. It's with Ashley Greene, who was in Twilight films. And it's actually really scary. I just saw it. It's really, really good. So the trailer's out right now, and it's coming out in theaters, April 18th.
Everybody give it up for Nathan Mitchell and Shawn Ashmore for jumping in.
Thank you, everybody.
One final question. Do you want to take a picture with this amazing audience?
Yes, let's do it.
Everybody, come on towards stage. Not on